Okay, the thing to remember with the triangles is your triangle really is half of a parallelogram, right? Okay, if we were to take the same triangle, duplicate it, and rotate it around so that those sides matched up, we might not get a rectangle, but we will get a parallelogram. So if that is half of one, then it should make sense that the formula would be half of the formula for your parallelogram. And you guys know this one. It's 1/2 base times height. And again, the base should be perpendicular to the height. Okay. Now remember with triangles, depending on whether it is acute, right, or obtuse, we talked about altitudes earlier in the year, and altitudes are your height. They can be inside, on, or outside your triangle. If your triangle is obtuse, you might have a height that is actually outside. Okay. In fact, we'll do a picture of that too. Thing you want to be careful of with those is your base would only be that length. It would not include anything that's not a side of the triangle. Okay, so it has to be a side of the triangle. And the height is from the top to the bottom, perpendicular to the base. Okay, so do not include that piece. Now, some of you might, instead, an alternative, some people like to say base times height over 2. And that's all right. It's the same thing. Okay, so a couple examples. So plugging into your formula, what would I count as my base? 10. And my height? Okay. So at this point, I mean, remember, you're not distributing the half. You can do this strategically, and you don't have to pick up your calculator. Because sometimes if you see things that work out kind of nice, what I would do is I would look and say, oh, half of 6.4 is 3.2, and then multiply that by 10, and I didn't have to pick up my calculator at all. Does that make sense? So you can take half of one of those dimensions and multiply it by the other if it works in your favor. You're not taking half of both of them. Okay, it's half of the product, which essentially is the same as taking half of one part. Does that make sense? So half of 6.4 is 3.2 times 10 should give me 32. And that also would be square units.
So you have to do half of that?
Well, you could do half of 64. So you can multiply these first and then take half. I mean, you really, whatever works best for you, you know, if you don't have to pick up your calculator because you're looking at something going, oh, I can do this in my head, then by all means, stretch your brain a little bit. Don't always reach for your calculator if you don't have to. Okay. All right, so So these are all in centimeters. Go ahead and find the area. So it'd be 1/2, 12 times 5, which would be what? 30 centimeters squared.